Much. Hello, I'm Courtney Geels, and I'm the North Carolina Values Coalition Grassroots Director.
Do I have to talk? My name is Steve Noble. I hosted the Steve Noble Christian Talk radio show for 16 years, which is now a podcast. I also teach high school age homeschoolers and have for the last 11 years. I've had about 1,000 students. One of the classes that I teach is 2 semesters on civics. So we're all talking the same language today. It's great to be here.
All right, so welcome to our Lieutenant Governor Candidates Forum. Our mission at the North Carolina Values Coalition is to follow Jesus Christ by equipping and building coalitions to advance and proclaim life, liberty, and family in elections, public policy, and law. We are not endorsing in the lieutenant governor race. Instead, we hope this forum will give you the information you need on each candidate to make the best decision for your vote. We currently have 7 candidates here who are running in the Republican primary. To clarify, you will see 11 candidates on your ballot, but only the top 8 candidates were invited to this forum based on their campaign efforts and fundraising to make sure there's time for you, the audience, to hear each candidate give their platform. 7 of the 8 candidates that were invited have agreed to be in this forum. We will be asking each candidate 6 questions. The first and last will be open-ended, and the middle 4 will be specific to the values of life, liberty, and the family, as well as tailored to the role of Lieutenant Governor, who has a significant role and voice in education in North Carolina. We have randomly selected who will go first, but for each question, we will rotate who will go first to be as fair as possible. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer each question. Candidates, you will see a sign down front that will signify when you have 1 minute left. And then you will hear this bell. Corey, if you can go ahead and just push the bell. You'll hear this sound when your 2 minutes are up. You will be dialoguing only with the moderators. This is not a debate.
Okay, so Courtney will ask each question and then bring you up, and then I'll introduce you subsequent to that. I may ask you a clarifying question. It's okay to be nervous about that, but don't be afraid of that. We're all on the same team. But I'll do that, and then I might not ask a clarifying question because we only have so much time, so I'll do it strategically when it comes up. And then we'll go right to the next person. But remember the bell and remember the 2-minute thing because we're trying to keep our time manageable. Otherwise, nobody will watch if it's too long. We all know that now. We live in that social media world.
Alrighty, so our first candidate is Rivera Douthit. You can go ahead and come to the podium. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. See, Steve keeps me straight.
I'm going to interrupt and pray, which we're still allowed to do that, right? Can I get an amen if we're allowed to? I don't care if it's allowed or not. We're still going to do it. Okay, let's bow your head. Let's all pray. Father God, we thank you for the privilege and the blessing of being able to call ourselves Americans, that by your grace, for most of us, if not all of us, we were born here and raised here. And so thank you, Lord, for the blessings of liberty and freedom, and religious liberty in particular that we get to enjoy and probably take for granted. Thank you, Lord, for these men and women who step up to the plate to not just talk about politics, but seek to serve. And so I just pray your blessing on them as they communicate and share today and as they go forward and have been doing that in this state, Lord. Just pray for your will to be done. Pray you'd give them each great wisdom and discernment and effective communication that though many will run, one will win, but they all have a platform. So I just pray that they will use that accordingly to bring glory and honor to your name and to help educate and inform our fellow North Carolinians. Thank you for the time to be together today. Thank you for Courtney being here, for Tammy and the North Carolina Values Coalition. Thank you, Lord, more than anything for you and your son and for salvation. And we ask all that in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Rivera Douthit, you can come up to the podium as I read the first question. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina.
Well, I'm Rivera Douthit, and I am a wife and a mom, and I'm running because Jesus asked me to run. I actually am very close to the Lord and have been since I was a little girl, and he's asking me to run, and I know that's maybe a common thing that a lot of people are saying. I don't know across the board, but that is specifically why I'm running. Now, some of the policies that I'm passionate about obviously have to do with women and children, being a mom and a woman myself. So I want to defend education. and make sure that we are not indoctrinating our children in the classrooms, but we are actually educating them on the true history and the basics of education. I also would love to see Bible and prayer back in the schools, as I believe that was a turning point in America in the 1960s when it was removed. And I always say if one woman can take it out, one can bring it back. And I'm also wanting to see sex trafficking ended. I'd like to eradicate that in North Carolina. We're in the top 10 in this state in the nation. The state is in the top 10 in the nation, and I think that should not be so. So I would love to address that. Obviously, there are veterans benefits and a whole plethora of other issues that I would love to see addressed in the state, but as a mom and as a woman, those are the top three. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Rivera. Okay, let's move right along. Alan, please step up and share.
My name's Alan Mashburn. I'm a pastor, I'm a father, former businessman, contributor to several publications, The Blaze and so forth. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been propelled to do this. If you can remember back in 2020 when everything went to Crazyville, with COVID, our governor acted as Nero the emperor and decided he's going to shut everything down. My father died in the COVID shutdown in a facility, as did many others. And we did not have anyone at that time to respond to us in government, to even give us a listening ear. And I determined that that would never happen again to my family or anyone else's. Also, he shut down the churches. I'm one of the few pastors that sued the governor and won. And we reopened the churches. And so we know how to fight tyranny and to stand up to it. And the only way to do it is do it face to face. And we did that and we won. We've also been fighting the inappropriate and the pornographic books in the library. And we have libraries of the school, and we have gotten a handful of those out, flipped a number of school boards over the state. So we're fighting, and I think if you're not fighting right now, you're not going to fight if you have a title. We're in a warfare. We're in spiritual battle. It's time to stand.
Thank you, Alan. Sam?
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Page. I'm the sheriff of Rockingham County. I've served in law enforcement for 42 years in North Carolina in my county. I'm a veteran. I've also served and am currently serving in my 26th year as sheriff. I'm executive. I understand how to run a $17 million operation, 155 valued employees, and to look after and protect 92,000 citizens in my county. I work hard at doing that. Our citizens in North Carolina, they want a voice. Our citizens in North Carolina also want someone that will stand up for them. As has been mentioned before with the governor, I want to reiterate, when the governor said when he said that liquor stores are essential and they're going to open liquor stores, but we're going to close churches, I said, no, we're going to have church. In Rockingham County, we had church. You have to stand up when it's right. Our Constitution don't get put on a shelf, it's been said, just because of COVID. Our Constitution stands. It's our founding principles, and it's our guiding principle for what we do in our work in government. So as next Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, I look forward to working for you, but I also look forward to standing up for you, protecting North Carolina, our citizens, and our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your service. Deanna?
Good afternoon. My name is Deanna Ballard, and I'm born and raised in Lincoln County, North Carolina, and have lived a life really rooted in service based on biblical values, conservative values, and hard work. I grew up in a Christian family. My career has been threaded with really a call to service, and it's a calling that I really cling to and hold to no matter what season of life I'm in. So I've served with Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse for the last 14 years, also served in the state senate for the last 7 years from 2016 to 2022. I'm no stranger to being ridiculed, criticized, and bruised and beaten in the public square, and am running simply to continue to advocate and fight for our conservative values, our families, our communities, and I'm really a chaired education policy and appropriations, so I've continued the fight in that effort in terms of rooting out indoctrination. And when it came during COVID, when it came time to reopen our schools, it was my bill the governor vetoed, but then he called and said, let's negotiate, so I was able to get that across the finish line. So I just ask, I'm here today, eager to continue to serve, to speak up, continue to stand up, and continuing to really protect what's important to each and every single one of us, and that's our freedom. So thank you for your time. I look forward to being with you a little bit more as we continue to talk, and look forward to your questions. Again, Deanna Ballard, running for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Praise God for North Carolina, where our candidates actually pay attention to the time. So thank you for that. Seth, you're up.
Hey, my name is Seth Woodall. I was born and raised in this state. I have 4 children, twin daughters that are 14, a 13-year-old son, and a 10-year-old son. I'm married to Stephanie Woodall, who I've been with since I was 17 years old. I'm an attorney by trade. I also own a real estate investment company and development company. I pride myself on success and having the ability to run businesses in this state. I went to Regent University in Virginia Beach, which is a Christian conservative university. And when I was there, I was told to read a book by Dean Jeffrey Brock. And the title of that book was his Common Law, Higher Law. And the principle was the judicial system is created based upon biblical principles and morality. And I'm sick and tired of looking around this society and seeing moral corruption and moral decay in everything that we have. I can tell you historically that when our founding fathers were working on this experiment that we now call the United States of America, they based all of our systems upon biblical principles and morality. And we have to get back to that if we want to see any success in future generations. As your Lieutenant Governor, I intend to stand on 5 principles: supporting law enforcement and first responders, standing behind the Second Amendment, legislating for economically beneficial laws for the families and businesses of this state, election integrity, and education. We must take politics out of education in the state of North Carolina. Our children need one agenda and one agenda only, and that's that they learn with intensity, live with integrity, nothing else. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that patriots stand up, not politicians. I'm not a politician. I've never ran for office, but I fully intend to be your next Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Seth. Hal.
So I'm Hal Weatherman, Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I'm a limited government, constitutional, Christian conservative. I'm 53 years old. I've been married for 20 years to my wife, Michelle, whom I call Shelley. We have 3 teenage kids, and I live right down the road in Wake Forest, North Carolina. Some of y'all remember I had the honor and the privilege to serve as your previous Lieutenant Governor Dan Forrest as his chief of staff. And prior to that, had the honor and privilege to work with his mother, was her chief of staff as well. Her name is Sue Myrick. She was the first female mayor of the city of Charlotte, and then served with distinction for 18 years as one of the most conservative members of Congress. But have it in my heart now to run for Lieutenant Governor myself. I have certain, governing principles that govern this campaign, also will govern how I govern. I believe that all mankind has fallen and in need of God's redemptive grace, and that grace is freely given through a personal relationship with his son, Jesus Christ, whom I profess. I believe the family is the basic building block of society, and that family unit is currently under assault in every room that we walk into in society: the boardroom, the courtroom, the classroom, the hospital room. And if I have the honor and the privilege to be your Lieutenant Governor, I will fight for our families and fight the woke agenda. And then finally, I believe you need to know the state if you want to lead the state. I was with Dan for 10 years, and we traveled over 500,000 miles in-state travel. I've been to all 100 counties multiple times. Even in this campaign, I've already gone to all 100 counties, 35 counties 5 times or more. I say that because you need to know the state if you want to lead the state. I want to paint a vision for the state. I want to help the new governor paint a vision. The Bible is very clear. A people without a vision, they perish. What is the vision of North Carolina today? And if you can't answer that, then I would say we as a people are in a state of perishment right now, and I want to correct that. So I'm Hal Weatherman, Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. And Jeffrey.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Jeffrey Elmore, and I represent the 94th District. My wife and I, Laura, live in North Wilkesboro, home of the North Wilkesboro Speedway. We have 3 children, all in college, so please pray for us in that journey. Twin sons at Appalachian, and Katie is getting ready to finish up at Chapel Hill in her senior year. The lieutenant governor's position is really a liaison position between the legislative branch and the executive branch. You need someone in the position that has good relationships with all of the legislators and a basic understanding of the executive branch. I am fortunate to be a full appropriator, one of the chief budget writers on the House side, so I'm one of the people that craft the state budget. So that gives me a basic understanding of all of the functions on state government. Also, I've served in the state legislature now for over 10 years, so I have established relationships with all of the legislators on the House and Senate side. We have made great strides in North Carolina on many of our values issues, from protecting the unborn, from taking our abortion law from 20 weeks to 12 weeks, to expanding school choice, and even preventing what I consider gender mutilation of children by banning sex transition surgeries for our youth. So we have taken bold stances in the state legislature, but there's still work that needs to be done. Our next governor is going to be a bold conservative. He needs somebody behind him that can help him navigate these waters, understand how to get things done. I'm not the out front person, so you're not going to see me dancing on TikTok or making videos or anything of that nature. I'm a worker bee. That's what I've done in all of my public service. So I would appreciate your vote on March 5th so I can continue the work that we've done in the state legislature and continue moving our state in the right direction.
Thank you to our candidates. I am very impressed, Steve, that they are so efficient with their time. So thank you so much. Another reminder is in these other questions, you may get a clarifying question from Steve after you're done. So just wait until he says thank you or something at the end, because he may ask a follow-up question to whatever you've said. Alan Mashburn, you can go ahead and step up to the podium. You'll be first for our second question. Question number 2 is, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson started the FACTS Task Force, an advisory board of education professionals to review reports of school indoctrination and inappropriate material. If you are elected as Lieutenant Governor, what will you do to combat indoctrination and critical race theory, gender ideology, and inappropriate books in public schools?
There's a myriad of things that I've learned that must be done. There has to be legislative action from the General Assembly. The law is not good and clarifying enough when it comes to the pornographic materials. The American Library Association loves to hide behind the First Amendment and says that it's freedom of speech. It's not. It's pornographic material, and it's completely inappropriate for education. So I would definitely lobby, as the Lieutenant Governor, being President of the Senate, lobby the General Assembly on both sides. And I say I would, I'm already doing that. I have a good relationship with many people in the House because we've been working on this. It's given me a national platform that we've continued to do. So we would lobby to make sure that law is put into place to clarify. In addition, we would immediately withdraw from the American Library Association as a state member. They've already blocked me on social media. I'm going to block them, period. Then we are going to want to make sure that we revamp the State Board of Education. Don't have a lot of time to get into that, but those terms are too long. They're 8 years. It's going to take legislative action and then eventually a constitutional amendment to change those terms. But we've done that before. We've done it in the marriage amendment. I was here in 2012 when we did that. It can be done, and it must be done if we want to protect our children.
Real quick, Alan, real quick question. One of the challenges we face in any state in the country as Christians is not everybody sees the world the same way that we see it. So when it comes to that word inappropriate, how would you define what's appropriate or inappropriate for children?
It's not a Christian matter. It's an educational matter. The Constitution says that we should put everything proper and wholesome in front. Actually, the whole word wholesome is not in the Constitution. But it is common logic that we should put wholesome material in front of our children. It's not a Christian issue. It's a moral issue. It's a proper issue. So whether they see it right or wrong or not, we have to do it for our children. We have the Constitution of the United States. We have the NC Constitution. We have to put our best foot forward before our children. Talking about anal sex and beyond that, I can't believe I just said that in the auditorium of worship, but here we are. Talking about that to our children and teaching it and displaying it is not our best.
Thank you, Alan. Sam Page.
Would you like the question again?
Please.
All right, I'm rereading question number 2. Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson started the FACTS Task Force, an advisory board of education professionals to review reports of school indoctrination and inappropriate material. If you are elected as Lieutenant Governor, what will you do to combat indoctrination in critical race theory, gender ideology, and inappropriate books in public schools?
Okay, well, I have to explain a little bit, is that I come from a background of public safety, protecting and serving our citizens, so I understand protecting, I understand serving. Those different things that you've mentioned there, those different things, CRT and all these different things in school, we need to get back to the basics. We need to hold our representatives in the school system. We elect our school board members. They have say-so over our local schools. Everything's local. So what we need to do is we need to encourage our school board members to be active, engaged, and also pay attention to what's going on in the schools, within the schools, and what is being allowed and what should be allowed. So again, I will have to agree with Reverend Mashburn on that. It's a moral issue. It's a right issue. But we know what's right. It's not a political. It's not this or that. It's what's right. It's what's moral. And we should make sure that we stay on top of it. Hold your elected officials accountable. As you hold me accountable as your sheriff in my county, you hold your school board members accountable there also. And at the state level, I will participate in any of the school boards and advocate for what is right and what is good for our school system. And again, my background is public safety, and that's how I approach things. That's the world I live in. But I love what I do, and I'm going to continue to keep our kids safe and our families safe.
Thank you, Sam. Deanna Ballard.
Thank you for the question. I was fortunate enough to work with Mark Robinson on his FACTS task force, which really did kind of originate into one of the original Parents' Bill of Rights. So one of the first things I would do would actually go back to what was just passed and look at kind of how to strengthen some of the penalties involved that are listed there. We know that some of our local school boards and school districts are not necessarily following the law. So there have been conversations with legislators already about kind of how best to do that moving forward. So that'd be one area. 2, I'd also look at obscenity laws and strengthening those. We have some on the books. Just a reminder that your public schools libraries and your county school libraries fall under kind of multiple statutes. So you kind of need to tackle that in a couple of different ways. So there's more work to be done in that space as well. What else would I do? Let's see. Those are kind of the top 2 things just out of the gate that I would probably lean into the most, and I think those can move the needle a great deal. I would also do more accountability I'd come in and have more accountability measures on our school boards, and even in terms of training and preparation that the school boards kind of go through as they are newly elected or been on the board for a while, but some sort of more formalized or intensive ethics training can take place there, I believe as well. So any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Seth Woodall.
So first and foremost, we're going to need legislative overhaul in the state of North Carolina when it comes to education. And then we're going to need accountability, just as some of the others have said, and enforceability. So when you look at the laws that are on the books now, we've got to make sure that our children are learning academics and not political agendas. And that's going to come directly from the legislative body of this state. So we're going to have to ensure that we work collectively between the governor's office and the General Assembly to ensure that we have legislation that's beneficial to these kids. And again, it has to be academics, not agendas. 2 is accountability. Just like Sheriff Page said, we need accountability across the board in every department and every agency. And if we don't have that accountability, nobody's going to move on to the third thing, which is enforceability. We have to have some teeth in our legislation that if these schools were to teach something or teachers were to teach something that is contrary to the legislation that our General Assembly believes is most appropriate for our children, then there has to be consequences. And I'm talking about harsh consequences, whether or not it's termination of your employment or legal consequences. We have to hold individuals accountable. And that's what's wrong with society today. When you remove God from our systems, you're not accountable to anybody, and you feel like you can do as you please. But we're going to have to do this legislatively to ensure that we have enforceability and accountability.
Thank you, Seth. Hal Weatherman.
So when it comes to DEI was never passed by the General Assembly. It was never put before a vote of the people. It was not mandated by anyone. By a stroke of a pen executive order, Governor Cooper created the office of DEI and put it like cancer into our school system, and then it metastasized all over the state. If it can be put in by executive order, it can be taken out by executive order. My first act as Lieutenant Governor will be to lobby our new incoming governor and say on the first day, by stroke of a pen, remove the office of DEI from every school in our state. And I think that's valid. SEL, when it was put into the school system, was done in a direct response to the Columbine shootings. I get the intent. The intent was to protect our children from mental illness and mass shooting situations. Listen, it's been hijacked. That whole funding source has been hijacked by the liberal left, and now they're using that to promote all kinds of things from a sexual standpoint that are inappropriate for our children, including the LGBT agenda. And so, the power of the purse still rules. The General Assembly needs to cut the funding. The funding's coming federal pass-through through the state, so it could be intercepted by the General Assembly and blocked, and I'll lobby them to do that. When it comes to taking the pornography out of the schools, I agree with Alan. I do want to pull out of the Library Association, but that doesn't go far enough. It's different in every county. Every county, some have a committee that pick the books. Some have, 2 or 3 people that pick it. I want to lobby the General Assembly to create an FTE position, that's a full-time equivalent position in every county, that has the sole authority to pick the books. Why? Because now we can hold that person accountable if they put inappropriate things in there, including firing them.
Quick question on that, Hal, and for all of you to think about this. In terms of dealing with this particular subject, God willing, the Republicans still hold the legislature. But do you feel, and how would you do it, do you need to communicate about this to people that are outside of our party, people that don't have a conservative perspective, people that are registered and voting Democrats, or do we just use the power of elections that we've won to deal with this stuff? Do you think we have to speak across the aisle on this particular subject, or just do what we feel is right by using the legislature?
Well, twofold answer, right? I mean, what good is power if you don't use it? So right off the bat, if you have the power, use the God-given opportunity and window of opportunity you have to do what's right by the people. But I am never opposed to communicating. I'm never opposed to speaking to the other side, because I promise you the other side, which demographically looks a lot different than ours, I promise you they're still moms and dads. They're still moms and dads. They want to raise their children. They want to keep a state of innocence for their children for as long as they can in this world. And so we're going to have a lot of commonality there. We should be bold about our convictions. I think that's the great thing that Mark Robinson has done, is he elevated the issue of the overt pornography in the schools and never backed down when he was challenged on it. And look who's rallying to him. Look at the booming of the charter schools. Why do you think that is? Why are people fleeing the traditional school system? I helped found a charter school in Wake Forest, and we now have 1,900 students. We started 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we have 1,900 students and a backlog of 1,500. Why? Because the traditional schools are failing. They're failing us, and one of the main reasons is the trash they're teaching. And so, yes, use the power you have, but also communicate with the other side clearly, and I think you'll find a lot of agreement.
Great. Thanks, Hal. Jeffrey Elmore. And we can read the question again if you need.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I don't want to talk around the question, so if you will read it again for me so I can answer it.
Yes, sir. Question number 2 is, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson started the FACTS Task Force, an advisory board of education professionals to review reports of school indoctrination and inappropriate material. If you are elected as Lieutenant Governor, what will you do to combat indoctrination in critical race theory, gender ideology, and inappropriate books in public schools?
3 things, and hopefully I won't talk to education speak for you. I've taught school for 23 years. There's a difference between standards and curriculum, and we're going to have to target both. First, we have to target the standards. Standards are developed by the State Board of Education. Coming up is health standards are being reviewed. So we must make sure that we have a conservative voice on the state board to make sure that gender ideology and all of that nonsense is not embedded in the health curriculum. We did, in our Parents' Bill of Rights, ban gender discussion and sexual discussions from grades 4 down, but there's more work that needs to be done. This isn't the teacher's fault. The teacher's doing what they are hired to do by the standards, so we've got to target the standards. Then we've got to make sure that the curriculum is aligned with the standards that we know about, that you don't have things like the gender unicorn in Charlotte that we've dealt with, where it was extreme left groups bringing in materials and saying, here's a free curriculum for you to use. So we've got to target there. Also, we have to create accountability in the materials that are purchased. I've sponsored legislation to create a pathway where materials can be challenged in a public venue. It's not down to one person, or it's all varied all over the state. It makes sure that the public understands what the materials are, to where the people that are making those decisions are held accountable. Then on accountability, we must make sure that our school boards that are local across the state follow the law. We've got some problems with them following the law. Some are refusing to do the Parents' Bill of Rights, and there's other issues that they're saying, hey, what are you going to do to us? So we must figure out a way to create accountability without making the children suffer. If we hit them with massive fines, who ultimately suffers in that situation? It's the kids. So we have to figure out an accountability measure there. So it's targeting through the state school board and also working with the legislators. Thank you.
All right, don't go anywhere. One quick one, and I'll back off on the next question. How long did you say you'd been a teacher?
I've been a teacher for 23 years.
Excellent. We do have criminal laws against obscenity.
Yes.
Should we enforce, how do you feel about enforcing obscenity laws with teachers? Like if they violate an obscenity law based on the information that they're giving out in a classroom, should we use the criminal justice system against a public school teacher?
Well, in the contract that I signed, I'm not allowed to give obscene materials to children, nor have I ever given obscene materials to children. What the situation is that you have school boards that are pushing agendas and administrators that are pushing agendas, so they're not holding the teachers accountable with what's already in place. If you are spreading filth in the schools, you shouldn't continue employment. And there are ways, very clear ways, that I can instantly be dismissed based on anything of that nature. There's morality clauses in these contracts, and they have not changed.
Great. Thank you, Jeffrey. Rivera Douthit.
I think I can remember. There's a lot of questions flying around. Well, first, we know that a country that loses its morality is actually doomed to failure. So that's the first thing. Keeping that in mind, I think that it first starts with legislation, and that's been mentioned multiple times. Even the obscenity laws, I think, is a great thing to look at, and I think that we have to set standards legislatively. Then we have to hold teachers and boards of education to those standards, and to do that, we have to, I think, pull the purse strings, as it's been mentioned. I believe in there being consequences for not holding the standards that were set by law and holding moral standards. If we can't read something or look at something in a public forum as adults, we shouldn't give it to children to do in private or in the classroom. So that is something that has to be addressed by law. And when teachers and superintendents or whatever in the school system are not doing that, there has to be a consequence. Either criminally, they're going to be charged criminally, or they're going to have monies removed and reallocated, or they're going to be removed from their position that they were put in by voters. I think that they should even just be removed off the board. I mean, we have to play fair here. And what point is it to have law and then not have people follow the law? I mean, there's no point in having it if you're not going to have people follow it. So we have to have consequences for sure. And then for me, I've been dreaming up ways of, fixing these things. And obviously, this is something that would be great to have roundtable discussion with lots of wise counsel. And I think the greatest leaders surround themselves with wise counsel. So I believe there's a task force to go forth and just impromptu drop-ins in these schools to see what is actually in the classroom and have those reports come forth. I think that'd be a great way to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Rivera. All right, Mr. Sampage, you're up next for the next question. And Steve, don't hold back on your follow-up questions. They're great. All right, question number 3 is, Rachel Hunt, who is running for lieutenant governor in the Democrat primary, says she is running to promote abortion. If you are elected, how would you use your position to promote life in North Carolina, and how far should North Carolina go to protect life?
How far we should go as far as we can go to protect life. Every life is precious. I oppose abortion, and I think I've stated this on questionnaires, with the exception of rape, incest, or medical condition or threatening to the mother. Other than that, no, I don't believe in abortion. I'm pro-life, and we should follow the law, and we should do whatever we can do to support anything that deals with helping our mothers and our families to look after their kids and help to support them in their efforts. But the last thing you want to turn to is abortion. I can't support that.
Quick follow-up, especially on this topic. One of the things that's challenging in the culture today is you've got about 70 to 75% of Americans that don't want abortion outlawed at all. Now, where they fall in terms of how far or how deep into the pregnancy you can go is different, but most Americans don't want it outlawed. There's a tension for Republicans on dealing with this subject. There's what's politically expedient, there's what's popular, and then there's what's right. So how would you handle the tension of, we had a lot of Republicans in this state that pat themselves on the back for a 12-week bill, but they won't go for a 6-week bill because a 6-week bill will effectively eliminate abortion, and they didn't want to go that far. So how, as a candidate and then as the lieutenant governor, would you handle the tension between what's popular in this country and what you believe to be right when it comes to abortion?
Well, again, I do not support abortion. But I believe we do have laws that we have to abide by as a career professional law enforcement officer, also a person that follows the Constitution. I have to follow the laws, but I can let it be known my position and where I stand and what I support. I can stand for what I believe in and communicate that to others in the legislature. But at the end of the day, I still have to follow the laws that come out of the legislature.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. Deanna Ballard.
Can you repeat the question?
All right, repeating the question, number 3 is, Rachel Hunt, who is running for lieutenant governor in the Democrat primary, said she is running to promote abortion. If you are elected, how will you use your position to promote life in North Carolina, and how far should North Carolina go to protect life?
Well, fortunately, after serving in the Senate, I've had an opportunity to really stand up and protect life, from the Second Chance Life Bill to the dismemberment bill to, I wasn't in the last legislature in order to vote on that bill, but I think my record speaks to continuing to support our pro-life families and communities. So I would continue to speak up and to stand up on that issue. I would also continue to lift up the resources that are there for our families who are struggling. So you've pregnancy centers. I mean, I've really invested a lot of time in supporting those, but continuing to offer and lift up those resources so they're more readily available, that individuals are informed and aware of what options are right there in at their fingertips in the backyard of maybe their neighborhood. So very supportive. I believe that life begins at conception. In terms of what the legislature just passed, I do support 12 weeks as opposed to the 20 weeks, and perhaps doing the right thing can happen still in terms of getting it further, I guess, kind of pushed back. But again, I think, taking kind of into consideration being able to move the needle to some level, to some degree, at this point in time is better than still remaining at the 20-week mark.
All right, Deanna, thank you. Seth Woodall. And just as a reminder on this question for the rest of you, the line in the sand is a specific question, and I know that a lot of candidates struggle with this one because you know what's out there in terms of how people react to this. Is it a 20-week ban? Is it a 12-week ban? Would you go to a 6-week ban, which is effectively a ban all out because they're not doing abortions before 6 weeks because there's no detectable heartbeat? So also address that. How far would you go? What bill would you advocate for in terms of where you draw the line in the sand on life?
Yep. So to clarify, you're answering the question, how would you use your position to promote life in North Carolina? And then, like Steve said, how far should North Carolina go to protect life?
And that's the question. I thought there was more to it originally.
Well, the beginning, I'll start over.
Okay,
just
please. Yeah,
for
I'm sorry.
kicks, so everybody hears it. Rachel Hunt, who is running for lieutenant governor in the Democrat primary, says she's running to promote abortion. If you are elected, how will you use your position to promote life in North Carolina, and how far should North Carolina go to protect life?
First and foremost, for a candidate for lieutenant governor to say that she is running on a platform of supporting abortion is simply sick in our society. And we can't have that, and she should be ashamed of herself for putting that out there. Second of all, our legislature passed the new abortion bill, reducing it from 20 weeks to 12 weeks. And I believe that we should go further. I am a pro-life candidate, and like Sheriff Page, I believe there are certain circumstances, as I answered on the survey, that may justify. But we need to be a pro-life state. We need to be a pro-life nation. And it goes back, and I feel like every time I'm answering one of these questions, it goes back to accountability. And I'm not just repeating myself. That is the problem with our society, is accountability. We have mothers who are getting pregnant, and they are not accountable to God, so that child's life is meaningless to them. And it's a societal issue as much as it is a legislative issue. We've got to get engaged in our communities and ensure that these parents, male and female, understand the ramifications of what they're doing. And it's going to take leaders and others just like sitting in this room who will actually stand up and push back against the ideas of abortions. So to answer your question, I would propose as the next lieutenant governor, I'd be okay with a 6-week ban on abortion.
Thank you, Seth. Hal Weatherman.
Well, the irony is not missed on me that Rachel Hunt is advocating, to advocate for abortion when her mother chose life. And that's not missed on me. It's a loaded issue for so many people because it cuts to the core of what we're here for, what God put us, here for. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life to the point of conception. I'm glad the General Assembly took it from 20 to 12, but I didn't overly applaud them because it doesn't go far enough for me. I would have loved to have seen it go to the heartbeat bill. Most people in this world assume a person is dead when their heart stops. Why wouldn't we declare life at a minimum in the public square when the heart starts? Now, I believe it goes further than that. I believe in conception. If a vote came up today, how would I vote? I would vote if Lieutenant Governor only votes in a tie. If a tie were to come up, I would vote to take it all the way to conception because I believe that. But politics is downstream from culture. And, we lost the culture war 50-some years ago, back in 1973, and we've inched our way back up through incremental actions. At a minimum, we should have taken it to the heartbeat bill, and I will fight for that. But it is just not missed on me that the people who are advocating for abortion, their mothers chose life. I think we have to surround people that are in a crisis pregnancy center. How would I advocate for it? I think we have to expand what it means to be pro-life, to also include, streamlining the foster care system, making adoptions easier, providing the neonatal care, and whatever it is the woman in a time of crisis needs, and provide them love. And, I think nobody does that better than the church, the body of Christ. And I think the General Assembly has done a good job of opening up funding streams from nonprofits and allowing them to go out and share the gospel with these young women during a time of crisis. So.
Thank you, Hal. Jeffrey Elmore.
I hate doing it to you again, but will you repeat the question for me?
Yes, sir. Rachel Hunt, who is running for lieutenant governor on the Democrat primary, says she's running to promote abortion. If you were elected, how would you use your position to promote life in North Carolina? And how far should North Carolina go to protect life?
First, I'm going to address Rachel Hunt. I think she believes beyond abortion. She voted against our Born Alive bill, where literally if a baby survives an abortion, she agrees that it should lay there on the table and die. So that's beyond even their definition of where life starts outside of the womb. So she has a very extreme position. I would share my story. My mother was an adoptee. Her birth mother chose life. She had my mother had health problems with me, and the doctors recommended that I be aborted because of her blood pressure issues. My mother took the gamble and chose life. I wouldn't be here today if those two strong women had not chose life. And because of the adoption process, I got to interact with my grandmother, Mama Carr, that really changed my life. So God puts you where you need to be. We need to promote life. We have funded pregnancy care centers in the budget. The Democrats do not like it. But those are entities that can help promote life and show young women, ladies, the options that they have, the understanding of it. I'm proud of our 12 weeks. We saved a lot of babies because what we did in the General Assembly with 12 weeks. I would support a heartbeat bill, but just like anything else in the state legislature, it depends on votes. If you don't have the votes, you can't get it there. So we have to work with folks to make them feel comfortable with placing that vote. Also, too, think about who you're voting for state Senate and state House, that you know that they will place those votes. So that's the key to it. So it's advocating in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Praise God for your birth mom. Well, I guess I should say that about everybody on stage, right? Rivera Douthat, you're next.
So this is a subject I'm pretty passionate about. I'm pro-life unapologetically. I wouldn't vote for abortions in any way, shape, or form. I would like to see it completely done away with. So life at conception would be what I would promote. Jesus is life. I'm a Christian woman. I worship him every day. And to worship life on Sunday and then be willing to take life on Monday doesn't work for me. So I would have to use the position of lieutenant governor, and many of you know it's not really a power position as much as it is an influence position. I would use that, having been in ministry for years with women. I've worked with women in ministry, written a couple of books about identity and all those things. That being my natural slant, that's what I would take into the office. I would take in influencing, and I would take in educating, and I would bring up the ideas that, we've bought a lie. We're in a spiritual battle in this country. There's no doubt about it. The biggest spiritual battle the world has ever seen. We're in it right now. And we have to teach people the truth. I would bring truth to the table every day. I would influence women who are in the legislative branch and all around me. Everywhere I go, I would be influencing for life. And I would tell them that this is a lie that we've bought, that it's my body, my choice, and that we're not hearing the truth when we go into these places. These women are not being told the truth about the emotional ramifications of having an abortion for years to come, that they may abort that baby, but they'll have that baby with them for the rest of their lives because they will carry that baby with them till the day they die. So I think educating is very important and influencing in that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rivera. Alan Mashburn.
Well, of course, Rachel Hunt is for abortion. She's a leftist follower of all the agenda. And if she's given within 30 miles of the lieutenant governor's office, she will be the Kamala Harris of the East Coast. We can't let that happen. Abortion, I believe life begins at conception, therefore that's where I start fighting. Now, the Democrat left is going to use this against us, so I think we need to work on our messaging. I'm not certain that this will ever come up in the next 4 years again because of what we have gotten already. But here's where we are. North Carolina needs to be a state of life. We need to focus on cutting the restrictions, the fees, the regulations, the cumbersome tools that's involved with adoption. And we need to focus more on that. And we need to elevate that. And any time that the left comes and tries to take away what we have achieved, we need to fight. Now, am I for a conception bill? I'd do it tomorrow. I'd push it tomorrow. But as Jeffrey Elmore said, we've got to have the votes. And that doesn't mean that we don't fight for it. That doesn't mean that we don't work for it. That means that we are realists. So here we are. We're in a impasse, as it were. But I think we have to have a show of force because we're facing, this is good versus evil. This is not R versus D anymore. And any time that abortion was ever dealt with historically, practiced historically or scripturally, it was always to do with pagan worship and satanic worship. So that's my premise. There is no good reason for it. And so if that specifically is used for an elective choice of birth control, that is most wrong. And so that is where we must stand, and that's where we must promote. We must promote North Carolina being a state of life.
Thank you, Alan. All right, Deanna Ballard, you're up for the next question. Number 4, you can go ahead and come to the podium. Number 4 is, since the Lieutenant Governor sits on the Community College Board and the State Board of Education, what role would you play as Lieutenant Governor to move the state's education institutions toward delivering a quality education, preparing students for a productive job instead of focusing on wokeness?
Thank you for the question. I did chair education policy and appropriations while in the Senate, so I've already been able to make some effort in kind of working in this space and reaching this stride. And I think the General Assembly continues to good work along with Jeffrey Elmore's efforts too. But I would continue to focus on reading and writing in our K-12 space. I co-authored the Excellence in Public Schools Act of 2021 with Senator Berger, but also was in charge of appropriating nearly over $300 million to the agency that would have to oversee and implement that. Also, we've had some government oversight over that agency too, and so therefore trying to hold accountable for some of the funding and where those dollars really go, because it is important for our kids to really stay focused on learning to read, write, and math. Secondly, I would focus on skills training. So I've done a lot of work in really expanding internship opportunities for 16 and 17-year-olds, but also expanding apprenticeships. In our community colleges, I would really continue to build up resources for our adult learners to kind of go back to school and really secure certificates or 2-year degrees to lead a successful career and start their own business. But truly lifting up the trades right now. I think that's not talked about enough. If it is, it's often talked about in a negative tone, but it's not. There's a lot of good work that's going on in the state, and I want to encourage our individuals. I have my own nephew who's getting ready to graduate, and he's going to go to community college, and that's simply because I was educating him on what resources are there in his own backyard and what programs there were. There's a lot that is happening. There's advanced manufacturing. I mean, you have a lot of your instructors at the community colleges are often the same 4-year instructors at a local university too. So I'm excited about the room to continue to grow that program, continue to invest dollars. Being a part of the appropriations, was able to secure one of their largest budgets to date for the community college system too. So having a lot of interaction with both boards and knowing some of the players and the leadership, I know they're all eager to continue to have me, along their side to bring some new and innovative ideas along the way while continuing to usher in and protect the intent of statute and laws that have already been in place.
Great. Thank you, Deanna.
That was a lot.
Seth Woodall.
I'm going to ask you every time. Repeat the question.
Yes, sir. Since the Lieutenant Governor sits on the Community College Board and the State Board of Education, what role would you play as Lieutenant Governor to move the state's education institutions toward delivering a quality education, preparing students for a productive job, instead of focusing on wokeness?
So as sitting on the Board of Education, as Mr. Elmore said, you are a liaison as Lieutenant Governor to negotiate between the Governor's office and the General Assembly. So we've got to continue to work with both bodies to ensure that our academics are number one as far as school in education in North Carolina. As the Community college, it really holds a special place in my heart. I did not do well in high school, had to go to community college. I was told that I would never go to a university, and I started at Rockingham Community College. And without community colleges in this state, I'm not sure where I would be, but I probably would not be standing here today. So I have a huge passion for community colleges. I believe that in North Carolina, we are lacking tradespeople. We need to dispense with the stigma that goes along with working with your hands, with being a tradesperson. And we need to partner with community colleges all over the state, and even before community colleges, with high schools and middle schools, to make sure to give a child a direct path into a field of choice that they can actually be a productive member of society. So I think it's going to be a position of influence in trying to negotiate and work directly and partner with community colleges, high schools, and middle schools to get skilled laborers out there to be able to build houses, do manufacturing, and any of the other trades.
Great. Thank you, Seth. Hal Weatherman.
Philosophically, first everything I'm going to do is to push choice, school choice. My family is the poster child of school choice. I have 3 children. At one time or another, all 3 of my children have gone public, private, Christian, charter, or homeschool. And the mother and I made that choice, and I want you to have that same choice too. I think the saddest thing we do as a society is to damn the future outlook of a child based on the zip code they're born in. And let's be honest, some zip codes are better than others. So school choice has to be integrated in everything. Agree with everything that everyone else has said. I want to push returning back to basics, reading, writing, math, as early as possible. I want us to teach how to write in cursive again. I want our kids to be able to read in cursive again, because I want our children to be able to read the founding documents of this country without a prism, without a filter. I want to read them with their own eyes. I want to teach American exceptionalism in our schools again. American exceptionalism says that we as a country, there's no moral equivalency of who we are to another country, because we're the only country that says our rights don't come from man or man-made entities, but from the Lord Creator himself. And so I want to teach these things. When it comes to the trades, community college on that role, I preach a message all over the state. This is one of the driving reasons why I'm running. I want to fundamentally remove the stigma our society has put on men and women who work with their hands. I believe there's dignity in work. I think God put us on this earth to work, and there are good paying jobs that lead to self-sufficiency through the trades. I want to create a 2-2 degree, and I'm going to push for it. 2-2 degree where even the kids who are going to go to college go the first 2 years to a trade school. First 2 years, become a HVAC, commercial welder, electrician, then transfer to a 4-year university, get a degree in graphic design, budget, marketing, finance, so they have all the tools to be an entrepreneur and run a business, right? And couple it with a skill set that's going to make them profitable the rest of their life. We have to stop as a society sending our kids to a 4-year university system where they come out with a degree in Egyptian poetry and debt and can't find a job. It's wrong.
So I assume you're against gender studies. You don't have to answer that.
You have to say.
Thank you, Hal. Jeffrey Elmore.
I think with our education system, we have to develop skills. And when I use the term skills or workforce, it's a whole lot broader than just working with your hands or a skilled trade. We've created an economy in North Carolina because of our tax policy that's one of the fastest growing in the country. We have workforce needs at all levels, from doctors in the eastern part of the state, to tradespeople, to construction, to biochemists that work at RTP. We need workforce in all areas. I think where the ball is being dropped is how do we guide kids in that junior, senior year of high school into what they need to do or what path they need to take. It's like a highway with different exits. You can graduate from high school with a trade certificate and do this, but you may want to continue down the road and do this. They don't really have someone to guide them in that and help them navigate those waters. I attended senior night with my boys when all all the different people were talking about, this is the community college, this is the university, this is the military. And I like I said, I'm a teacher. I walked away confused. So imagine for a lot of our parents that may not have an education level, or like my grandmother, she couldn't even read. Imagine if she's sitting there with her child trying to navigate those waters. So the kids need that. And plus, too, at the elementary level, we got to make sure that they can read and do math. That's just foundational. That's a foundational skill. Without those skills, you can't do anything that I just described. But I'm hoping to break down some of those silos of the community college silo and the K-12 silo, because all these silos have got to work seamlessly together to do what's best for our kids.
One follow-up question: with the Lieutenant Governor sitting on the Community College Board and the State Board of Education, what would that look like for you, Jeffrey, to be in on those meetings to push back against the obvious woke agenda that's out there? How would you message that? How would you approach that?
Well, the devil's in the details. That's the way it always is. So you have to understand what is considered woke. A lot of these people, you got to remember what we're battling. They don't consider what they're doing wrong. They think it's right, and that it's right for kids. So you have to have a conservative voice there that points this out and says that this is not going to work. You don't need to talk about gender fluidity with a 6-year-old. I've worked with 6-year-olds now for years. They don't understand many times boys and girls and black and white. We're the ones that put that nonsense on them. We're the ones that create the hate. We're the ones that create the prejudices. They're innocent. So you have to have somebody that can at least understand what they're looking at and that it's wrong. So I feel like I've got that perspective.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Rivera Douthat.
This is a loaded question, but I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to go back to my foundational worldview, biblical worldview, and wanting to put Bible and prayer back in the schools, because I think that would really help form and formulate these children as they're going through. I know that it's a big giant to take on, I realize, because we have this woke agenda. But if we're going to have, people are pulling this woke agenda thing off, and our hands are tied, and we can't have Bible and prayer in the schools. If teachers want to pray over their children, if they want to speak truth, if they want to speak into their identity and how God created them and who God says they are, and remind them that they can do anything and that they should be pursuing the things of God and what God has chosen for them to be put on the planet to do, and this type of thing. I mean, why not have teachers be able to say those things? And so I would really fight for that foundationally. I've been to other countries to preach the gospel, and I have seen in those countries the oppressive nature, but I've also seen that in those countries, whatever religion they have is what they're teaching children. So I would foundationally want to get back to our Judeo-Christian roots and this biblical worldview that would really change the structure, I believe, of teaching in America. Also, I agree with everything that's been said. I mean, I think these guys had great ideas about, I was a critical care nurse for years, so I graduated from got a 4-year degree in nursing. And so I've seen the community college model. I've seen the 4-year college model, all of that. And I think encouraging children from middle school on that they can do any of those, they can take any of those paths, and maybe have incentives that they would even take the community college path for 2 years to save money and those types of things, and then go on and get their 4-year degree. I would be all for structuring things in a way that would incentivize them to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rivera. Alan Mashburn.
Well, community college is very important to me. My son Zach's in community college. I've visited a number of them, had several conversations with several presidents, and I'll tell you this, those that are succeeding and growing do not have a DEI director. Go figure. Having said that, I think it's very important to realize we can have all the programs in the world. If we don't issue a call to rebuild and strengthen the nuclear family, we're just going to grow the government. And remember, we're the people of limited government. We can have all the best tools in the world. You can buy a shiny hammer for a guy. If he doesn't know how to use it or has no desire to use it, then it's no good to him. So I think the trades has to start in the school, but I think the desire to do that has to start in the home. We can't expect our teachers and our facilitators to actually have to do that. So I think as public leaders, we have to issue that call. As leaders, we have a responsibility to do that. And then as far as DEI, gender fluidity, and all that nonsense, DEI must DEIE. It must die. It must vanish. We must rip it out of our society totally. I was a welder for 12 years, so don't let the suit fool you. I believe we have to start that trades initiative in the high school, continue it on into the community colleges, which are perfect at adhering to the needs of the community.
Thank you, Alan. Sam Page.
Question again, please.
Yes, sir. Since the Lieutenant Governor sits on the Community College Board and the State Board of Education, what role would you play as Lieutenant Governor to move the state's education institutions toward delivering a quality education, preparing students for a productive job instead of focusing on wokeness?
Okay. Well, I have to go back to, where I came from. When I graduated from Reedsville High School, I didn't want to go to college, didn't want to go to community college. I wanted to be a law enforcement officer. And I was too young, so I went in the military, served in the Air Force. When I got out of the Air Force, I started with community college, Broward Community College. Then when I came home from Florida, I went to work and went through Rockingham Community College. So I went through, and Davidson Community College. So I've gone through the community college system. I've taught for 22 years the BLET, Basic Law Enforcement Training, at our community college. So I know how important it is, the technical training for our future here. Not every kid I know is going to go to a 2-year or 4-year college. But we need to make sure the kids know what's available out there because we need to build for our future workforce. Okay, so the thing is, I think at our middle school level, high school level, we need to have those technical training and also vocational training so kids get interested. If you don't get the kids' attention, the children's attention early, and I didn't tell you this, I'm also a former school resource officer in the middle school, but if you don't get the kids' attention early, they don't want to, they may not want to go and do something. But get their interest, vocational, technical schools at the lowest level. I will work with my with my Board of Education. I will work with the charter schools, and I will work with the different school systems here. But I want to say this is just understand that not everybody is going to go to college, but if we can get them in that direction, because we want to build for the future and for the future workforce. And that's what I'll do as Lieutenant Governor, to support and advocate for our kids and give them opportunities to make those choices whichever way they want to go, like I did.
Thank you, Mr. Page. All right, Seth Woodall, you can step up. We have question number 5, so we have 2 more questions left. What ideas would you try to implement as Lieutenant Governor to restore parents' God-given rights to oversee the education and health care of their children?
Well, I think North Carolina's done a good job with the Opportunity Scholarship, and what that has enabled parents in North Carolina to do is to choose for their children what they think is best. North Carolina's education is not a one-size-fits-all for students. Our parents need to have the opportunity to choose. It's their prerogative as to whether or not their child should be in public school, private school, charter school, or homeschool. Parents should not co-parent with the government. They should not be told where their children can attend school and how they should learn. I believe that the Opportunity Scholarship has been a great thing, and it allows parents an opportunity to apply for a scholarship that's on a sliding scale based upon their income, and it enables those parents to choose where their children go to school. And I think that's a great thing, and I will continue to push for legislation to expand that so that our kids can learn in whatever system best benefits them.
Great. Thank you, Seth. Hal Weatherman.
Question number 5, what ideas would you try to implement as Lieutenant Governor to restore parents' God-given rights to oversee the education and health care of their children?
I mean, I kind of answered it on my previous answer when I was talking about school choice. I agree with everything that Seth just said. I'm for school choice, not because I'm against traditional public school, because all of my kids have gone to public school at one point in their life. I'm for choice because it breeds innovation. Bureaucracy and innovation don't go together. And I want to innovate. I think the world we live in demands innovation. We are literally training kids for jobs that we don't even know they exist, that by the time they graduate, those jobs have already gone away and been replaced with something else. I mean, they have to be able to innovate, and choice does that. I don't have a favorite. My favorite is whatever works for the parent and whatever works for the child, be that public, traditional public, private, charter, Christian, virtual, homeschool. I would add to that, I do want to be a fierce advocate for the homeschool community. Like I said, we've homeschooled all of our kids at one time or another. My daughter right now is homeschooled. And so I'm a limited government constitutional conservative. So, you know, I understand there has to be some baseline, which I think North Carolina has done a good job of providing a very bare minimum of regulation for the homeschool community. And I want to keep that. I want to keep it that way. I don't want to expand that in any way to give the government a foothold into that. I am for opportunity scholarships. I think that drives choice. I call that the backpack model. A lot of people do. Stop funding the systems, put the money in the child's backpack and let them walk wherever they want to go. Fully supportive of that. You had something about the medical side of things as well, and I'll just simply say on that, I do think as a voting member of the State Board of Education, any surveying that's being done of our children that's inappropriate, right? I don't think the school system should be surveying my child if they're in a public school system, so I'm going to fight that, if that makes sense.
Quick follow-up, setting aside school choice, which we all agree with, most of our students are still stuck in the public school system, so what ideas would you have in terms of empowering parents to have the ability to get into the public school system and advocate for their own children with respect to curriculum as well as health issues?
Well, I think the General Assembly did a great job with the Parents' Bill of Rights, which I support, which basically says that a parent has a right to know at any time what's being taught their children, period. They're minors. We have the right to know what you're teaching them. And so continuation of that, again, I'll always be an advocate for transparency in our school system, always. I want the parents to know what's happening. Listen, if there's a reason the teacher doesn't want to tell the parent something, that's inappropriate, right? They're minors, and we have to remember that at all times. So I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure I actually understood your question there completely.
I'll take responsibility for that. Thanks, Al. Jeffrey, you're up, Jeffrey Elmore. And really, what I was after on that was, we have a Parents' Bill of Rights, what else could you do to empower parents whose kids are in the public school system? They're not going to take advantage of school choice. They're still there, but what do you do with parents in terms of how they can the parent walk into the school during the middle of the day? Can a parent access the curriculum, no questions asked? Empowering parents whose children are in the public school, that was what I was after. Besides the rest of the question, do you want to hear it again?
Do you want me to answer your question first and then the regular question, or do you want me to answer the regular question?
I'm going to leave that up to Courtney.
Okay, Courtney, what do you want me to answer? And I'll try to answer it.
Well, I'm going to reread the original question. I think that Steve was just expanding on what that question is, so you can answer it the way you want to.
If I can cut a deal, if you'll read the original question to me, and then he can repeat his question after I answer that one. How's that?
We know he's a negotiator, the legislator. What ideas would you try to implement as Lieutenant Governor to restore parents' God-given rights to oversee the education and health care of their children?
Okay, first I'll talk about the expansion of school choice. We did the largest expansion of school choice in this last budget in the history of North Carolina. As of the end of last week, there were over 38,000 new applicants to the Opportunity Scholarship because there were folks that did not have that opportunity to choose what school they could go into. So on that note, I think that we've made great strides. I think you could continue some work in that, even if you look at tax credits, that sort of thing for folks that are at higher income brackets. Now, on the Parents' Bill of Rights, I think that we did a good job with it, but it's really a lot about the interaction with school. And I think a lot of people are saying, what are the fundamental rights of parents, and do we need to cite them out? I think I brought a document. I had a feeling you'd ask this question. This is the negotiation document between the Senate and the House on different things dealing with the Parents' Bill of Rights that still probably are not worked out. And one thing that concerns me a little bit is there are certain medical treatments that a kid does not have to share, or a doctor does not have to share with their parent. And some of them are quite broad, like emotional disturbance. What exactly does that mean? So we may have to go back in and clearly define those things to make sure that a parent is truly knowing what is going on with their kid, both physically and emotionally.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Rivera Douthit.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do your follow-up question.
No, I think you touched on it.
Okay, good.
Okay, I want to hear it one more time. Sorry.
What ideas would you try to implement as Lieutenant Governor to restore parents' God-given rights to oversee the education and health care of their children?
Well, like it's been mentioned, I love that we have school choice. I think that the money should follow the child. We're spending about, if I'm reading correctly, we're spending about $10 billion a year in state funding towards education, and $1 billion of that is going to charter schools. And then we have, obviously we have students that can't read at grade level, so we've got to address some things. But I love that we have choice, and I think that legislators have done a great job with that. I believe that parents should absolutely know what's going on with their children at all times, and there should be school transparency. If a parent has a question, it should be answered promptly. I believe that someone should be answering their questions, whether it be the principal or at the top, or whether it be the teacher directly. And I also believe that teachers should have to give an account for what's happening with the students. So a periodic meeting with the parent should be required by the teachers to check in with the parents frequently. I would encourage teachers to even be sending out emails on a weekly basis to kind of let the parents know what's going on, and if parents have questions, that the teachers would be interacting and answering those questions. I think from a leadership perspective, just encouraging and influencing again in that way that there's transparency in the schools. I think that answered the question.
Great, thank you, Rivera.
Thank you.
Alan Mashburn.
Well, I love to use the terms education freedom, because parents have that right of education freedom in this state. I am a homeschool father. We homeschool our children, and you're not going to find a lot of fans in the homeschool community of the Opportunity Scholarships, because a lot of them are gun shy because of government dollars or whatever. And that's fine. That's why it's called opportunity. You have that opportunity and you don't. But the point is, parents have to be involved in every element. My home county is Moore County. I live in an adjacent county, but my home county is Moore County. They passed a Parents' Bill of Rights before the state legislature did. I was very proud of that. Worked with some of the board members on it. And they did an excellent job in it. And on their website, they have accessible to all the parents, where they can view every element of that child's itinerary for the week and the curriculum. So that needs to go widespread. It needs to go viral. I would also say to parents, I have been to a lot of school board meetings across the state, and a lot of them are empty. You want to be involved? Show up. You want to be involved? Run for the school board. Be involved. Be engaged. Show up. Get yourself voted in, and you be in the room as a part of the decision-making process.
Great, thank you, Alan. Sam Page.
As a sheriff, I have the opportunity to visit a lot of meetings. At the local level, I visit a lot of school board meetings, and I observed just what Mr. Mashburn just said, Reverend Mashburn, is a lot of teachers, but not a lot of parents there. Parents need to be engaged. Again, as a former school resource officer, I was in the school. I talked to the parents. Parents need to be involved, and parents should have the right to know what's going on with their children. Teachers have your kids for 6 hours, and they're not there to babysit. They're there to educate your kids. But you need to be involved and know what's going on. And I want to thank our representative here, Mr. Elmer, for making sure that we have those opportunity scholarships. I talk to a lot of kids when I visit places around the county, and I said, "Where do you go to school at?" And they say, "I'm homeschooled." I said, "That's good. That's cool. You can go to school when it snows, right?" But they have the choice. And with these opportunity scholarships, I would continue as Lieutenant Governor to support whatever it takes to give that free choice for where a parent wants to send their kids. But if you're going to be in public school, hold your school board members accountable. And I will tell you this, as a sheriff, I know the difference, even though the Attorney General of the U.S. don't know this, but I know the difference between a domestic terrorist and an upset parent at a school board meeting. And again, I see that. And I hear that, but the truth of the matter is our parents need to be engaged, and just like the Reverend said here, is they need to come to school board meetings, see what's going on. Visit your school. Go to the PTA, PTSA meetings and stuff like this. But as a former school resource officer and the sheriff who's responsible for safety and security in our schools across my county, it's important to me, and your children are important to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Yes, sir.
I guess I've been a domestic terrorist for a long time. Thank you. You can have a seat. You're all set. Deanna Ballard.
All right, the question's really rooted in ideas. So out of the gate, I propose perhaps a roadshow that really highlights what school opportunity and school choice has done for our families across the state. Believe it or not, a lot of families and parents do not believe and think that school choice is actually, and the opportunity scholarships were actually rooted in a Republican legislature. So I think it's very important to understand, for folks to understand the power of what's been happening in the legislature, and they know who's been looking out for them. Secondly, kind of behind the curtain a little bit, those folks that actually support implementing and executing and delivering, administering those opportunity scholarships is our North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. I would ensure that they continue to have the resources they need. They provide a lot of customer service. They provide a lot of folks who call in, answer questions. So ensuring that we are really, serving our families and answering their questions in a timely way to continue to expand the program, maximize the program, would be powerful. And then let's see, what else would I do? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there, I think, that we can continue to think through and empower our parents in terms of, during the pandemic, there was nothing more powerful than all of a sudden, realizing some bills didn't have parental consent. So really going back through our statutes and scrubbing, maybe perhaps some statutes that still kind of leave a little bit of gray area there, but thankful for the opportunity. I have had to be a part of that, especially when it came to vaccines. And then also just really proud of the work we were able to do with expanding school choice. And that includes, looking out for our homeschooling families, our charter schools, but again, kind of coming alongside those individuals and being able to say, this is a great thing for you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Alrighty, I think we are on our last question here. I lost track of who's first. Hal. Okay, Hal, you want to go ahead and step up? I should be able to count that out, right? But last question, and we are going to limit this question to 1 minute, so just keep in mind you've already given a lot of your platform. This last question is, why should voters choose to vote for you?
I love this state. I was born in the state. I've traveled the state. Like I said, 500,000 miles of travel in the state, all 100 counties multiple times. Not just campaigning, but learning the state so I could serve the state, because I believe in that. I'm a campaign manager by trade, if you know my background. I could lay out a strategy for you to campaign full-time in 35 counties, camp out there, win the race, never set foot in all the other counties. But I told my team from the very beginning, we're going to go to all 100 counties. We're going to plant a flag. We're going to plant a flag in all 100 counties that we want to represent all of you and show the same love and affection to the small counties as we do to the large ones as well. I have 30 years of experience that I think will be invaluable, both state and federal, as a chief of staff, that will be invaluable to our incoming governor. And I want to serve him. I want to serve the people that elect me, but I want to serve the new governor as well, and do so loyally and faithfully. And it'd be my honor to serve as your lieutenant governor. So I do ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. Jeffrey Elmore, 1 minute, please.
I'm a proven conservative with a track record to show it, and I understand the functions of the executive branch and the legislative branch, how to continue to move our state in a conservative direction and continue for it to grow economically. I believe in this position you do not need an out front person. You need a worker bee, somebody that understands all of these processes. We have a bold conservative legislature, and I believe this fall that we're going to elect a bold conservative Republican governor. You need someone in this role that can connect those two together. And when those two get connected together, we're going to continue to move our state forward. And it's a very exciting time. So again, I'm Jeffrey Elmore, and I would appreciate your vote on March 5th. Thanks.
Thank you. Rivera Douthit.
Well, first of all, I'm not a politician, so that's probably the number one thing. I am called by God, and He's asked me to run, and I'm doing it because He asked me to. I was a critical care nurse. I've worked in high-stress environments, and I believe I can make decisions in high stress. Also moved into ministry. I believe the greatest leaders are servants first, and I've been serving women and the community for years in the capacity of ministry. Also, my husband and I have a small business, and we've had it for 20-plus years. So I would be able to bring, responsibility financially and business sense to the table. But I just believe that it truly is a calling, and that's really the bottom line for me. So I love North Carolina. I'm a native North Carolinian, and I want to do whatever I can to see North Carolina shine, to be a city on a hill, to be a light in impending darkness in this country and in the world. And so my name is Rivera Douthit, and I thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Mashburn, why should voters choose you?
We're in unprecedented waters. We have a debt that's reaching $35 trillion as a country. We have over 30 million people who have invaded our southern border, and that every state now is a border state. Quite possibly, according to local sheriffs that I speak with, we're going to see things that we don't want to see in the coming months and years. God forbid. But we have got to have strong, bold leadership that's been tested and proved, who've served in executive capacities, to make those decisions and to stand strong and to stand tall and to keep morale up among our people. Also, there's a reason why we're the most endorsed candidate here in this race, because people see that we fight. We're in spiritual battle, and it's why Ted Nugent called me the other day and said, "You're the man." So I'm getting behind you in support. So if Uncle Ted can say it, so can we. I covet your prayers and covet your support March 5th.
Thank you. Sam Page, why should voters choose you?
I'm Sam Page. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm the only sheriff that's run for this position. I'm executive in law enforcement. I've had the opportunity to protect and serve my community, my country, and my state, working with the local level, working with the state level with the North Carolina sheriffs, and working with President Trump and his team, working on border security issues and also building the border wall and protecting our country from the border in. I currently serve on the Border Security Committee. We're in crisis on the border, and we're in crisis here in our country internal with the fentanyl that's taking lives every day. You want somebody who will fight for you, you want somebody who will protect and defend you, and you want somebody who will stand up when you have people in the legislature that want to push casinos and other type of issues on you that you don't put up with, that I don't put up with. And I'll stand with the people, and I'll never forget this. I'll be accountable to the public, transparent in my actions, and never forget who I work for, we the people. God bless you. Thank you. My name is Sam Page, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Deanna Ballard, why should voters choose you?
My name is Deanna Ballard, and I am here today that no matter what the outcome of this race will be, I am a daughter of a great and mighty God, and I can rest in that. The devil is not the biggest threat to me, but I think I am a threat to him, and I think any of us up here on this stage is, because we protect and we preserve conservative values, and anything that's going to keep us from reaching our full potential in Christ is not going to be good for him. But when it comes to this election, I want you to remember, and I ask that you to remember, who can win in November, who can stop just this left-wing indoctrination that's happening. And I've got the record, I've got the muscles, and I've got the education chops to go toe-to-toe with Rachel Hunt. So I'm asking for your prayers most of all. I'm asking for your support, and just most humbly and sincerely just asking for your vote. So I thank you for this time, and I look forward to connecting with you more later.
Thank you, Deanna. Seth Woodall, round us out. Why should voters choose you?
So, I believe that I have a specific set of skills, the requisite experience, and a passion for this state. I told you in the very beginning you needed patriots and not politicians. If you want to see a difference in this state, if you want to see a difference in this nation, stop electing the same individuals to office over and over and over and expecting a different result. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to be as humble as I can, but I have ran a multi-million-dollar law practice with 2 locations, a multi-million-dollar construction and real estate investment business, and I know how to run a business. As Mr. Mashburn said, this country is spiraling out of control with debt. I not only know how to look at a budget and figure out the expenditures, but I know how to generate the money to make it work. By and far, I'm sure that we've got a lot of great candidates, but I employ more individuals than everybody up here combined. I know how to run a business, and our state needs to be run like a business with morality, integrity, and Christian principles, and that's what I intend to do for you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodall. And on behalf of the North Carolina Values Coalition, we want to thank you candidates for participating. Thank you for our audience for coming. And I think we'll be very lucky to have any of you represent us as our Republican nominee. For more information and specific endorsements that the North Carolina Values Coalition has made in other races, you can visit our website at ncvalues.org. If you're not already receiving our communication, please sign up on our website to join our coalition, as well as we're going to be pushing out a petition very shortly. The North Carolina Values Coalition is working on progressing these parental rights, as we've been talking about today, in 3 topics. We want to make sure that parental consent for medical care is solidified in North Carolina. We currently have a statute that allows minors who live with their parents the right to consent to health care without their parents' consent for prevention and diagnosis of the treatment of STDs, AIDS, pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, and emotional disturbance. It's the most liberal law in the country. We are working to change that, and we want to remove the obscene books in schools that we've already talked about, and also have some civil penalties for those school boards who are not following that Parents' Bill of Rights that we have passed. So we encourage you to sign that petition, and thank you so much for joining us today.
And last but not least, don't forget to vote. Don't be a Super Bowl voter and only show up in November. You have to be a playoff voter. We need to all be a part of picking the best team to send to the Super Bowl in November. So don't be a Super Bowl voter. On that note, early voting runs from February 15th to March 2nd. Election day is Super Tuesday, March 5th. For those of you in the audience and for those of you watching, most of you are voters already, but you know a lot of people that aren't. And since it sounds like most of us are believers in this room, remember, your vote is like a talent. Your vote is a talent. And if you go back and reread that story, if you're the guy that buries your talent and doesn't exercise it, that doesn't turn out good for you. It's not turned out good for the country. So make sure, because we're all voters, you're not enough. You have to activate other people, especially in the primary. Primary turnout is horrific. And I think it's because enough of us don't bug enough of them. So make sure you get involved and do that. We hope you've learned everything that you need in terms of dealing with this particular race. And we want you to go out. We want you to vote. Pray before you vote. Pray while you vote. Pray after you vote. Be engaged. And on that note, if you don't mind, Tammy, I'd like to pray for all of you to finish up our time together. And thank you again for your time and being a part of this today, and thank you to everybody watching. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for lifting up men and women that are willing to set aside comfort for a call, for men and women who are willing to get out in public and allow for the fiery darts to fly at them, at their spouses, at their families, at their children, at their businesses, Lord. So I just pray a hedge of protection over these men and women running, not only the ones here, but the ones around the state, or in fact around the country, that would speak truth and follow it up legislatively. Give them the strength and the stamina and the wisdom and the discernment they need. Lord, help them to speak boldly and wisely, to know when to speak, to know when to listen. And just give them favor, Lord, as they project and converse and talk about these important matters. Lord, help them to remember that they have a platform here and now, and that they've answered that call, and you expect them to speak based on your word, based on your truth, for the good of their neighbor. So I just pray a special blessing over these men and women and all the others that are running that would equate themselves with you. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to be together today. Help us to be good stewards of the information that we've gleaned and of that freedom that we have to vote, to try to love not only our neighbor, but you. So we pray your blessings over North Carolina, over this country, and we ask that all in